Hello, welcome to another episode of Hey It's Those Guys Game Reviews. I'm supposed to say my name, huh? I'm Nick Silviano, and this is Connor Jagger.
Yes.
And today's game has been played to death, re-released to death, done over and over to death, in many different forms. But we want to do a review of it anyway, and that game is, show 'em.
Resident Evil 2 for the Nintendo GameCube.
It's for everything. We just happen to have the GameCube version in our possession. I mean,
Yes.
You had a system, it was on it. PlayStation,
Nintendo 64, I don't know how that worked, but they did it.
PlayStation 2, or I'm pretty sure some PS2. Dreamcast had a version. GameCube had a version. Your mom had a version. Your dad had a version. Your uncle had a version. Everybody had a fucking version. There's probably an iPhone version on the way too. Anyway.
Wouldn't surprise me. There probably already is one.
So you played Resident Evil 2. You know exactly what you're going to get. Tank controls.
Zombies. That's kind of.
But just in case, for whatever reason,
and
if you've been living under a rock, you just picked up video games.
all two of you.
Or whatever reason, you just didn't happen to get around to playing this game, gotta tell you why you should. I'm just trying to bring some enthusiasm to our videos.
Well, I know. That's a little too much enthusiasm, but that's
I think next time we gotta get you a little sugared up before we do this. Or drunk.
Oh, that would be funny. We should do a drunk game review.
Stay tuned. So anyway, Resident Evil 2, basically the sequel to, you know, one of the most critically, I don't know if critically, one of the most iconic games, we call it that way, that came out in the PlayStation era, and that was Resident Evil. But you got Resident Evil 2, bigger story, more characters.
Continues on from Resident Evil 1, but in a different part of Raccoon City.
More to do, different scenarios. You got Leon and Claire. Basically, you're playing these two characters, and you do one.
You can do the scenario A, B. You can do Leon, Claire, Claire, Leon, and you if you do all four versions of the story, you'll pretty much get all the.
Anyway,
stories.
to get the real ending, doesn't matter how you do it. You either got to do scenario A, and then scenario B.
And scenario B is usually harder.
Whichever character you feel like doing in any order. So basically, you have to play scenario A for scenario B to flesh out the whole story, because what you're doing through scenario A, the other character does during scenario B. So anyway, the controls, you know,
depends on what system you're using.
Depends on what system, but actually they're pretty much the same.
But usually it doesn't matter what controller. It's usually these buttons up here that involve you aiming.
I mean, yeah, you have to hit one button to put up your weapon, whether it be a gun or a knife. Okay, you can actually use a knife.
In the GameCube version, I think they have an auto aim version. Do they have it in the PS1 version?
I don't know. It's pretty much auto aim. You point at whatever, but
usually if there's an enemy in the room, you point at it. If you don't see the enemy because the liquor is on the ceiling, your character will point at it. Just aim up and shoot.
But you got your zombies. You got your characters.
And Resident Evil 2 was the first Resident Evil to introduce something that chases you.
Personally, this is like, out of all the stories of Resident Evil, this one is my personal favorite because I think it did a lot. I mean, gameplay-wise, Resident Evil 4 is my favorite. But as far as...
Between Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil 5, Leon runs from the boulder, Chris punches it.
We'll get to that later. Anyway,
we'll get to that way later.
Resident Evil 4 would be my second favorite in the series. For Resident Evil 2, I liked it just because of the story. I like how they did it. You do pretty much go through a little of Raccoon City, then most of it's the police station, then a lab. So,
but first you go through the sewers. You find a giant alligator, which you blow up its head off,
and you get an ending. Then you see a couple different characters that pop up. Some mentioned in the first game, others make their full appearance, like Ada, or otherwise known as Bitch in the Red Dress.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's
one thing that I don't get about this. It says discover hidden game modes. The panic struck Fourth Survivor mode, or I don't even know what Fourth Survivor is, or is the hidden character Tofu?
Oh yeah, there were a couple of extra characters. You beat the scenario A and B, you get the character Hunk, which is like, I guess he's kind of like considered the Boba Fett of the Resident Evil series. For some reason, he has a strong following and nobody understands what the hell it is.
So we know in Resident Evil 4 it makes the character that only has a little crappy submachine gun.
And then you get Tofu. It's like what you expect, a giant fucking piece of tofu with a knife.
Really?
Yeah. You never seen it?
No.
Jeez, play the game a little more.
Why the fuck would you play it? Well, I guess we know how zombies are staying alive now.
I guess it's part of a challenge. But you have to go through the whole game with a knife. You don't get a gun. You pretty much do Hunk scenario just with you're playing as a giant piece of tofu. I can't explain that. You're gonna have to ask Capcom about it.
Show me a picture of that.
Look it up. So anyway, I will give this an approval.
So, now, one of the, like I said earlier, you have the tire chasing you, which is a giant thing in an overcoat, and it chases you.
Oh yeah, scenario B, you got this like big thing in a trench coat hunting you.
Resident Evil 3 was a lot worse.
We'll get to that eventually. So anyway, I guess that's it. That was Resident Evil 2. I don't think we really have to describe that much about it because everybody and their mother played this game since like 1998. So y'all know what to expect. We're talking about anyway. We're just talking about anyway. So have a nice day.
Remember, Nick, it's up to us to take out Umbrella.